Chair 6,
Here.
Board Member Noon,
Here.
Board Member Whalen,
Here.
and Board Member Black.
Almost here.
All right. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We can open public comment. Do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Great. Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. Just as a reminder, if anyone wishes to speak in person, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. And seeing no one move to speak, I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you. At this time, I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, and we did not receive any written correspondence. So I'll turn that back over to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and go to approval of the minutes for May 1st. Does anyone have any edits, corrections, etc.?
No.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Let's take our vote.
All right, Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair 6,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
I will abstain.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then the consent calendar for the 8th.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had 6021 Hollister Ave. That was there for concept review. That was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer. And then item B, 2637 State Street, and that was continued indefinitely with comments as well. And those were the only two items. Thank you.
Okay. Does this sound accurate to the folks that were there?
Yes,
Okay. You want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Okay. I'll second that. Any discussion?
A discussion item, and for comment by Mr. Black on that 2637 State, it calls for relocating the plant material. And to Ms. Kokinda, can we ask that there's some sort of maintenance period to see if transplanted materials survive, and if not, they be replaced with new ones? Because if you agree with me, Mr. Black, the chances for relocating things are much less than new materials.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We didn't bring that up. They came back this morning for today's consent. I didn't bring that particular issue up, but I think it's a good idea, yes.
I can make it either on these minutes or the ones that are coming up that happened today.
Board Member Whalen, I would suggest doing it with the ones today, assuming that it was approved, then
was.
you could condition it with that.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Okay, let's take a vote.
All right, Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair 6.
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then today's, please.
So just today, we had the one item that we were just discussing, 2637 State Street, and that did receive final approval and project design approval and final approval with the following minor zoning exception approved along with the project compatibility findings. So
Okay.
that was the only item.
So
would
at
you
this
like to
point, I
carry
think.
that comment to this.
If that's appropriate now, before the motion, yes, I would like to move that on 2637 State Street, the condition be added to the approval that if the relocated plant materials fail within, I don't know, 6 months,
Sure.
that they be replaced with equal plant materials in size and character.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, I don't think you need to mention if they fail within a time frame. If they fail at all, they need to be replaced.
Well, that's true. And the city has an ordinance that says that any approved plant, any plants in an approved, as part of an approved plan have to be maintained and replaced if in fact they don't survive, so.
Well, very good. I would change my motion that there be no time limit on the replacement element condition.
Okay,
It's prudent.
let's take our vote.
All right, Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair 6.
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and moving on to announcements, requests by applicants, et cetera.
Yes, to the board, good afternoon. I do want to share with you that the appeal for 425 Santa Barbara Street was at City Council last week, and the City Council upheld your decision, the ABR's project design approval granting of the project. It was a very interesting conversation, and as you're familiar, there was very little discussion about the design, and a lot of it really had to do with zoning and parking and all the different things that come up. And those are the things that we're always, having to bring up and say, please don't discuss those at this table. And I think it's always a little bit shocking to see projects in real life and on an individual basis, and kind of how policies are adopted and what applies. And, we're still kind of our average unit density incentive program does reduce parking. There is no parking requirement in the CBD or in the CBD. And then it's also, we have new legislation, AB 2097, that within half a mile of a major transit hub, of which we have 2 in the city, we have the Amtrak station, and then we also have the Carrillo Bus Center. Anything within that half a mile is also exempt from parking. And so it's really difficult to communicate that, and knowing that kind of politically we've set up a situation where housing is prioritized over parking, but that doesn't necessarily mean that parking just goes away or evaporates and that people don't have cars. But I think part of it is the intention that, we go back to, if you're really desperate to have a car and you need a parking space, maybe you won't necessarily live in that particular housing development, but it's a trade-off. So we're still continuing to see these awkward things, and I'm sorry that they come up, and we'll have to continue to ask you all not to discuss that. But it came up in terms of, it was also discussed in regards to the California Environmental Quality Act. So some of those arguments came up in the appeal. But again, your decision was upheld. And yes, if there are any quick questions, I can try to answer them.
Not a question, but a remark, Ms. Kokinda. It was not a unanimous vote.
Thank you. I shouldn't have said that, because yes, we did acknowledge that there was one dissenting vote. And actually, the appellant was very much used your language in that dissent. And we continue to try to capture that in the minutes of, if there is a dissenting vote, we like to hear why you're not able to get to making a motion with your other board members. So thank you for mentioning that.
Okay, anything else from staff? No?
Well, no, I think not related to this board.
Okay. Any subcommittee reports? Anyone has met lately? No?
Actually, if I may, one other point, I think you might find this interesting. On May 22nd and May 24th, the State Street Advisory Committee will be meeting to discuss kind of the initial concepts. The 22nd is really geared for more of an economic discussion, and then the 24th, our MIG consultants that the city's hired will be sharing kind of the first concepts with the State Street Advisory Committee. So if you're interested in that, or other people in your worlds, just be aware of those conversations.
Great, and those are public meetings here?
Absolutely. There are public meetings. Both are going to be in the Faulkner Gallery, and the State Street website, it has the specific times. I'm sorry, I don't have those in front of me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we can move on to item 1, please. Okay, this is a continued item here for an in-progress review. This is 604 East Ortega Street, Ortega Park. And this is a proposal for renovations to Ortega Park. consisting of the Ortega Park Master Plan, including a new swimming pool, wading pool, water slide, skate park, splash pad, sports courts, shade sails, sports field, and synthetic turf, ping pong tables, cornhole, and buildings for restrooms and maintenance. Site improvements, including fencing, parking, landscaping, dumpsters, related enclosures, and walkways are also proposed. The park is considered a community park, except for the ball fields and related facilities. The Welcome House per City Council Resolution 17-074. No appealable decision will be made at this hearing. We last saw this March 20th of 2023. Welcome back. So as this is an in-progress review, I guess we could focus mainly on changes, updates to your plan. We do have, it's scheduled for a half hour total, so that'll be sort of a short and sweet presentation for you.
Absolutely. Great. So first off, my name is Elijah Pierce from RRM Design Group.
Justin Van Mullen with Parks and Recreation.
So there were a handful of comments from the PDA meeting. However, we're going to be focusing on two specific items that changed that we were asked to come back for an in-progress review. The first is the trellis area, and the second was studying some changes, adding a little more tile roof back to some of the buildings. So we'll walk through those. So just as a refresher, this is the park. So we got South Puedes here and Ortega here. And we're going to be looking at first a trellis here in the plaza, and then second we will be looking at the restroom building and actually one element on the welcome house. So just for orientation's sake. So let's first take a look at the trellis in the plaza. There we go. So previously, we had a similar trellis here. We had proposed the red pomegranate. We were pulling some colors from some of the murals that will be in the park. We decided to step back a little, to go to the more toned down bronze color here. These still are steel elements, but they provide a few distinct advantages for us. One, they will be painted, and so for maintenance, they can be repainted if they receive graffiti or any other sort of harm. But they also allow us to have larger spans than would be a typical, purely wood structure. And that was really important when we received community feedback. We originally had a more covered and a more tightly spaced area in this plaza. But the feedback we received was to make it more open, more flexible, kind of a programless area. So we wanted to keep large open spans and keep the maintenance, and steel really helped out with that. However, we did move, since last time you've seen this, to these wood purlins with a little more of a shaped edge. Previously, we had a plumb cut on the purlins. So very similar in size from the last time you've seen, but tweaking some details that we think makes it a little more compatible with the rest of the park. We have an art walk that flows underneath it, and felt this really complemented that design. All right, and let's take a look at the welcome house. So the welcome house, go to the site plan just to show. The welcome house is right here. It's kind of the main gateway into the pool area. It's actually where the entrance to the pool would be controlled. And we had moved to a parapeted roof structure, and it was asked to take a look at, could we possibly add some tile elements, get a little more tile, particularly on the street frontage. So what we're proposing is opening up this the front entry, adding a tiled awning right here. So have just a quick schematic perspective. It's just something that helps announce the entrance. So just a wood and stucco awning there. Then second, this is the restroom and shower building. And so previously, we had moved all to parapet, a parapet-style roofs over the whole building. However, we are now proposing showing pitched roofs over the shower area and over the maintenance area. We're still able to keep our solar areas, even taking these portions out. However, one other change when we added this element here at the maintenance area, we felt as though this facade, it gave a little bit too, it added more emphasis to this mass, but in practical nature, this is the really the portion of the facade that most people will be using. This will likely have a mural over top of it, but where you're going in is here. So we popped this element out a bit more than we previously had, just to kind of strengthen that feeling. So this elevation is right here. That's where you'll come up into the restroom building. So for those without entering into the park, these restrooms still face the general park area. So for most users outside of the pool area, this is the entrance that they will be using. So this is the element that's changed. And then just a couple quick little perspectives what that will look like. All right. And that's really all for today. Just wanted to get a read on how we like adding these tile elements back and the trellis. So we are still progressing along with the construction documents, and we are addressing and incorporating a number of other comments that we had received at the board. But we were asked specifically to come back on these two and wanted to get them back in front of the board.
Okay, excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We can open public comment for this item now.
Great, thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. So just as a reminder, if anyone wishes to speak in person, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. And seeing no one move to speak, I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and then I will call on you. At this time, we actually do have one hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the ability to speak, and then you'll have 2 minutes to make your comment. So we'll go ahead and start with Victoria Valente.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, board members. The most conspicuous aspect of this Ortega Park presentation is the omission of important elements. And I'm referring also to the drawings that were submitted March 20th, also today. When presenting to the Planning Commission, it was said that the skate park did not fall under PC purview. When presenting to the ABR, key details regarding the skate park were omitted. To get an idea of the actual design, at the March 20th meeting, ABR members were forced to ask a long series of questions regarding heights, dimensions, openings, and other details. How about the planned artwork for the interior and exterior features? I guarantee that the artwork planned is incompatible with Haley Milpas design guidelines. Even today, where are the elevation or perspective drawings that the board requested? Regarding the pool deck space, manual measurement of the plans was inconsistent with information provided by the presenters. As I have stated before, expert aquatics facilities consultants state that the deck space at the starting blocks, the deep end, should measure at least 18 feet. However, manual measurements resulted in closer to 10 feet, contrary to what was stated during the March 20th presentation. The aquatics community has never had the opportunity to provide meaningful input regarding the aquatics facilities design. Contrary to what is stated on the city's website, one meeting was held June 8th, 2022, that featured a PowerPoint presentation. This was not a workshop. No opportunity was provided to influence the design of the aquatics facilities. Regarding the peepholes looking into the outdoor showers from Salsipuedes, who would design something like this? Peepholes should be located elsewhere. As stated by many Eastside community leaders, we object to fencing around the soccer field as well as fake grass. Included in the documents regarding the Ortega Park revitalization project is a poignant letter from Heal the Ocean. This letter details the environmental impact of artificial turf. I've also found it and included it here. My opinion is that fake grass is tacky, smelly, and it doesn't fit in with the Haley Milpas design guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. We have anyone else?
At this time, we don't have any other hands raised on Zoom, but we did receive a letter from Victoria Valente. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, we can close public comment and go to questions. Vice Chair Six, would you like to start us off?
Yes, Chair Moore. On the bathing building, the hip roof was there before, correct?
So which building?
Oh, this building we have in front of us. What's this called, the restroom building?
Yes.
Okay.
This roof was not there at time of
Last
the
review?
PDA approval, correct?
Okay, good.
Neither was this roof here.
Okay.
Both were parapets.
Yes, I understand. And then can we go to the welcome building? Well, maybe the plan would be better.
Right.
So I see an opportunity, you have a lovely indent in the front doorway facing the street. But it seems to me, unless I'm missing some program, there's an opportunity to indent the axial door going out to the pool. That would,
So
could you entertain dipping that in a little?
we could, I would like to note, this is an existing building. We are proposing, in essence, shearing off the roof and rebuilding the roof, but the footprint is intended to stay the same.
So all the indents and so forth in the front are existing.
That is correct.
Okay. And did you entertain putting the two-width parapet treatment on the lower parapets also?
With the tile,
Yeah.
we had, I will say, still, there's some debate about that. We personally felt it started looking a little busy to do everything like that, so we ended up putting it on the central element only.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Black, any questions?
Yeah, jumping back to the trellis design that you showed earlier, could you just remind me of the materials again?
So all the
proposed-
brown are painted steel, and
Okay.
then the wood, the lighter brown is wood.
Okay, and then the horizontal supporting the wood is all steel as well?
Correct.
Okay, and the steel is painted, did you say?
Correct.
Okay, and the wood will just be some sort of finish, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
Stained.
That's my only question, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Newton?
No questions, thanks.
Mr. Whalen?
Two questions based on public comment. Could you speak to the pierced openings in the outdoor shower area? Are they filled with obscured material or translucent, or are they indeed open?
They are open, but I'm glad you asked. Let me pull up the plan. So I wanted to show what it looks like. So there are two elements. One is standing right in front of the shower. I think you have about a 28-inch bit of solid wall. However, one thing to note is that the pierce elements are approximately 6 inches thick and have fairly small openings. So in an orthographic elevational view, yes, you can see through it. But in reality, you're only getting some light through. Even standing right here fairly close, you're not going to be able to see through. We have whole fences that are open on this project, and these are open showers, to be clear. This is not an enclosed shower room. This is, you rinse off before the pool. So it's not, bathing suits are required.
Thank you for
People will not be changing in there.
No, absolutely not. This is completely open to the pool
I
deck.
understand.
There's some small openings that, if you walk right up.
That was clear to me,
Yeah.
but thank you for expanding upon it for the.
No,
benefit
it was a
of
completely
everyone.
reasonable question.
Yes.
But I'm glad.
And
one of
the other question is about the pool deck limitations for competition. Can you speak to that point?
I'd be happy to speak to that point. So we have hired a aquatics facility designer. So when we started to make changes, originally the bottom of the pool was all 3.5 feet continuous along, and we didn't have starting blocks. And so we had to increase the deck size to 10 feet to make space for the starting blocks. Keep in mind, this isn't an Olympic pool. This is going to be for juniors and seniors mostly, very small competitions. 10 feet is adequate. If you look at Los Baños, which we have tons of competitions year-round, it's only 12 feet.
Yes. Well, that may not meet. Now, I may have misheard you, but you said it's an Olympic pool? It's not.
I said it is not.
It is not.
No,
Right.
it's not an
That would
Olympic.
be a 50-meter pool.
Right. It's a small community pool for youth and seniors.
And minor aquatic events, right. Thank you for that elucidation. Those are all my questions.
Could we go to the, I guess, the rendered views of the, I think it's the
restroom build?
restroom building? Yes. Yeah, the lower one there. So the, over on the, in the lower image on the left-hand side, so those 3 doors access
So we have a restroom,
restroom, okay.
a maintenance area, and this is actually open. There are some additional covered showers.
Okay. And then, so on, more towards the left where that person is standing, painting or admiring the paintings, there would be a fence of some sort that would come into the side of the building?
Yeah, so yes, let me show you. So there would be
Okay.
a metal gate right here.
Okay. And that's a 6-foot
Yes.
gate, okay. Okay,
It may be 5 feet, I can check on that, but
okay.
so it would be the same fencing that we have in other locations along the pool.
And then on the opposite end of the building, we'd have the same condition of fence.
Yeah, so we've kind of kept that a similar pattern where we'll have a break allowing some views in, and then a solid wall, and then additional fencing.
Okay. Is the fencing meant to be flush with the building, or is it going to be set back? Foot or so?
It's slightly set back. I don't believe it's a foot, but we would have. Yeah, we can study that detail. I'm not sure if that's been fully defined.
Okay, and then the roof over the rest, that block there, the kind of the larger, was it taller when it had the parapet on it? Or did the eave come down slightly with the tiled roof?
So the critical measurement was that the eave still has to, in essence, fly over top of the parapet. So that really drove the height. We were looking to keep this as low, but not uncomfortably tight.
Right.
So in the previous design, the parapet, this mass's parapet was taller than this parapet, but overall, the eave and the parapet is very similar, I would say.
And the reason I'm asking is that on the image on the lower side, there just seems to be a lot of space between the head of those doors, and I know you've tried to add the recessed detail to take up some of that space, but maybe there's more work to be done there.
Okay.
But anyway, any other questions before we go to comments?
Just a follow-up, Chair Moore, the size of the wood trellis members on the trellis, have you determined that yet?
Yes, let me pull it up so I can give you the right. Yeah, so these are 10-inch deep. Yep.
And
I believe 10 by 4. Yeah.
Okay, shall we go to comments? Who'd like to start?
Sure, I will, Chair Moore. I think the roof additions are quite handsome and add to the overall effect, and I can support the project as proposed.
Okay, Mr.
Nothing further to add. I can support it as well.
Yeah, I would agree with those comments.
Vice Chair Six.
yeah, I'm still not comfortable with the modern look of this trellis with the flying buttresses or the overhead connection and so forth above the trellis. But I think there's a grand movement, taking it down to bronze instead of a red. I think that the extent of construction, that the indent on the door on the pool welcome house, the pool side of the welcome house, would be an important hierarchy between that and the rest of the more minor entries. But and I also appreciate the movement and feel that what's been done is making the buildings much more successful than before.
Okay, my only comment would be to study adding some sort of detail or treatment to that area that's on the what
Pool
elevate-
side of
pool
the-
side
yep.
restroom. Okay, so we need a motion, or is just a list of comments acceptable?
I think the list of comments is acceptable, so we would just
Great, great.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. All right, bye. Perfect, thank you so much. Okay, so item 2, scheduled for 3:45, we can start, right? Yeah. If the team is ready, that is.
The anticipation, it's killing me.
How's it going? Good. All right, this is item number 2. This is 2940 De La Vina Street. And unfortunately, since I was not here for the first round, I need to step down. So I'll ask Vice Chair Six to step in.
Okay, this is item number 2, a proposal for improvements to an existing site and single-story office building. Proposal includes demolition of existing canopy roof and columns and demolition of storage building. Proposal for a building addition, new patio, new fence and gate, parking spaces and landscaping. This project is here for project design and final approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility guidelines. The project was last reviewed on March 20th, 2023. Do we have the comments from that last meeting?
one moment, Vice Chair Six.
So I'll read this. The motion included the following: the character of the wall and gate shall be less modern and more compatible with the character of De La Vina Street. The gate itself shall allow more visibility into the courtyard, and the applicant shall also reduce the height of the wall to increase visibility into the site. So with that, gentlemen, if you'd introduce yourself and tell us what you have changed.
My name's Jordan Bottenfield, lead designer. Our new proposed design kind of addresses those comments that you guys just mentioned. We converted that front wall that was originally kind of that board form, kind of modern in design. We converted that to a plaster wall to try to maintain more of a Santa Barbara look on the De La Vina corridor.
If you could go to the more applicable
Yeah,
images.
Just walk us through the changes that were made and show us on the plans as well. Thank you.
These are the new proposed elevations that we put together. You can kind of see the new plaster wall and new height that we've shown there, along with the new proposed gate design. The original gate was just closed off, and I think a comment that it was kind of like a barricade. You couldn't really see in or out of the space, and you kind of wanted to be able to kind of see in a little bit better. So we're proposing kind of a slat configuration, so it kind of gives you a little bit more better visibility kind of into the space. I will comment though that gate does need to remain open during business hours. So that top elevation is kind of what it's going to look like day in, day out as people kind of walk the street. But the biggest change that we made, was the plaster wall going from the vertical board form that we had originally. And we adjusted this rendering from an original 9 foot 4 inch height wall down to an 8 foot height wall to kind of address the comments of it feeling a little bit tall for the space. So those were kind of the big changes from what the board had reviewed previously.
All right, thank you. Any landscape changes?
No, there's no landscape.
All right, very good. So with that, we will open public comment.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Six. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. Just as a reminder, if anyone wishes to speak, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. And seeing no one move to speak, I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom, you can go ahead and raise your hand and I will call on you. At this time, we don't have any hands raised on Zoom, but we did receive several letters from Alan Sibanar, Tim Estes, Jervis Yao, Kelly Weiser, Douglas Katsev, Brian Holland, and Mike Brashears. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair Six.
All right, thank you. With that, we will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Obviously, we will start with Mr. Wayland.
Why is that obvious, Mr. Six? One small question. Is the wall in the same position that the previous canopy and pillars are at? Or has that dimensional changed at all?
That has kind of remained the same. The location, yes. Yeah.
And I don't recall seeing the privacy fences near the residential units before. Was that added from our last proposal, from the last time we saw it?
Hasn't been added, but I imagine from the barricaded fence that we kind of had, you probably couldn't see it quite as well as you can now. So now it's visible.
Just testing my own memory there. Thank you. Whether they're
Can you refer in the plan to where Mr. Whalen is speaking of?
Can I make just a brief comment too?
Yes.
When you're using the mic, it's not a hold function. Just tap it and to turn it on or off, and that's for the applicant. City TV is calling us.
In this bottom rendering, you can kind of see them in the background. So these are the two private rentals in the back. So there's a privacy fence back there that frames in those two units, and we would have the same kind of configuration at this front with kind of like a slat detail on those back fences, so it ties together.
And material the same too.
Same material, yes, correct.
and the height on those privacy fences, is that also 8 feet?
Correct.
Thank you. Well, those are my only questions.
Thank you. Mr. Noon,
No questions.
Mr. Black.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
So my only question, so you went from 9.4 down to 8? Can you go another foot to 7?
9.4 was kind of the existing height of the walls that are there right now, and then there was the big 19-foot barricades. I guess I'm calling them barricades, but this enclosure that you kind of see at the top here, that was like over 19 feet. Hoping that 8 feet would accommodate the board and everybody's feelings on that, just because of trying to maintain a level of privacy for the ownership.
So subtly you've said no.
Correct. And I was-
Okay,
yeah.
very good. I think those are my, color-wise, and I don't, it's jumping the gun, but, I think it does relate to the concern of relating to the rest of the street. Are you planning to have an off-white, a stark white, or have you thought of the colors?
We've called it Santa Barbara white, just to kind of stay
So it
within
would
line
be
with
an
Von
off-white.
Exactly.
Yeah, but your renderings show obviously not colored.
It contextualizes a little gray, but it would be an off-white, yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. Comments? Mr. Black?
I was thinking the same thing that you were, Mr. Six, as far as the height of the wall. 8 feet seems a little overbearing to me. I mean, 9 feet, unacceptable, but even 8 feet seems tall to me, just from a pedestrian perspective. I mean, I think dropping it just by a foot to 7 can provide you with the same kind of privacy I think you're interested in, and it won't be so imposing on the sidewalk and the street, in my mind. So that would be my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Noon.
Same comment, just the height of the wall.
All right. Mr. Wayland?
Yes, I'm in agreement with that too, especially to put a finer point on the pedestrian experience. Since you do have living units there, there will be people transiting out and skipping over to Trader Joe's and in and out. But so the pedestrian experience, especially to the north building has a much more residential feel and scale. The medical building to the south is a large, flat space. So I could live with the wall height. Plus, you have the 15-foot high proposed building. So I would support a reduction of the wall height, especially at that north end.
Well, I think you're sensing, and that was my comment to begin with, would you be willing to bring it down to 7?
I don't know if it's appropriate here. One of the elements of the whole
Could you
project.
come up and speak into the...
Take a microphone.
Identify yourself, please.
My name is Daniel Zia. I'm the owner of the project, and this would be our office building. One of the desire for us to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on the new parking plaza with permeable pavers and all of these outdoor landscaped spaces and benches and seating and everything is to really be a facilitator of quiet, intimate conversation with our clients and with nonprofits, and allow the nonprofits in the community to use the space. But one of the negative elements of De La Vina is it is a busy, noisy street, even into the evening. And so a lot of that extra wall height is a measure of sound buffer, not just a visual sight line, so that those conversations can happen. That was really the catalyst for us to do this project and why we are spending so much of the remodeling budget on the interior plaza and elements there. So if there was any way that we can get a concession there to the 8 feet, it's such a reduction of what's already there in scale, and it automatically, it's dwarfed by the building to the left and the right of us. That's so much taller. There's some sightline elements with some of the adjacent units to the left and the right that we would love to keep if at all possible.
No, thank you. So does that change anybody's vote?
I'm not completely convinced about the noise difference, especially when the gates are essentially, they will be open during the day, and they are not, they're of a open nature in themselves, so not completely convinced about that argument, and would still lobby for a better pedestrian experience from the public realm.
Okay, is anybody willing to make a motion in this regard? I assume that the rest of, we appreciate the movement since last time, and I assume that there is no other than just the wall height that is a sticker here, correct? Design and
Yes.
so forth. Okay, so is anybody willing to make a motion?
If we split the difference, can we get it approved today?
Oh, I'm sorry. It does, yes, it does say, are we prepared to do final design here?
No.
Yeah,
It says that, but,
yeah, I was surprised. I think we
well,
need,
but up at the top, it says project design approval. And here,
it says final approval,
It
so,
It's intended to be scheduled for project design and final approval today, so.
oh, yeah, I don't think so, because we don't see the full array of details. We don't see a color board.
I don't think you have a final landscape plan in there.
Final
The one
landscape
that's
plan.
listed, the one in the group that I saw just said preliminary, so, which
So
would
we-
not constitute final.
So we could, if it's comfortable to the board, and the only thing we could do is to forward it, if whoever is going to make this motion, consider if this project is to the point or the nature that we could send it to consent for final, but it's not ready for final in, clearly in the documents required.
I would make a motion that the board would continue this to final, I'm sorry, to consent for final.
We, first of all, the same as project design approval.
Right, I would give it project design approval.
Yes.
Send it to consent for final with the following conditions. That you do reduce the height to 7 feet. I don't think there were any other, I mean, just the regular requirements for final landscape plan, color boards, details.
Yes, that's good. I will second that.
I would just
Under comment?
would like to comment, it is a very handsome design, and I look forward to its completion. It looks very livable, and it's meeting all of your project objectives and improving the neighborhood.
So I think we have a complete motion on the floor.
So I'll add the findings as well to the motion.
Yes, and did we get a seconder? I apologize.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
I
Okay.
don't count, I guess, huh?
Can I make one note? We do have a color board included, so I think it would just be the final landscape plan. Is that?
Well, do we have all the window details and
You
so
know, the
forth?
architectural details, are they there? I'm not sure there are, but. You did all that in 20 sheets?
No.
Yeah,
So,
window details.
yeah, so we need, final, also has electrical, outdoor lighting, lighting cut sheets. It also has the full mechanical plans and so forth to assure that there's no exposed equipment or and like concerns. So, yeah, we're not ready for final at this point.
So just under discussion, so do you think, given the level of details that need to come to us, that a consent review with just 2 members is adequate? Are you comfortable with that, as opposed to the full board? Just a question.
I was comfortable with that in the motion.
Okay.
Mr. Whalen?
I'm open to.
Okay, then I would be too.
Okay.
And Mr. Six, there are some lighting fixtures in the plan that was submitted today.
Okay.
I don't know if it's complete, though, so not to negate your motion, a
All right.
complete lighting plan.
And staff would like to apologize. It was intended to just to be scheduled for project design approval. I misspoke, or excuse me, just project design approval, not final approval. So that was my
Okay.
apologies.
But final can go to consent. Very good.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Noon, will you do the honors of,
Yes, I will continue. The board also finds that the project is consistent with the design guidelines. It is compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood. It is appropriate in size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. There are no landmarks that it is insensitive to. It does not affect ocean or mountain views, and the landscaping is appropriate.
all right, so we have a full motion now on the board, on the table?
Proceed with roll call. Chair Moore? Sorry, Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes?
And Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Staff would like to acknowledge that the next item agenda time is scheduled for 4:25 p.m. The earliest we could hear that next item, if the applicant is present, would be 4:10 p.m. So we'll need to take a recess until 4:10 p.m.
So the board will recess until 4:10.
Thank you.
3, which is 19 North Voluntario Street. This is a proposal to demolish the existing one-car garage and construct a 1,492 square foot, two-story residential dwelling unit with an attached 450 square foot, two-car garage. The existing 1,192 square foot, one-story residence will remain. Proposal includes one covered carport for the main residence. Project design and final approval is requested and requires compliance with the project compatibility guidelines. Okay, so this is your first time here.
Yes.
Okay, so if you could introduce yourselves and locate the project for us.
I am Jose Luis Esparza, architect.
And I'm Jose Vega. I'm the owner. Happy to be here, excited. We're educators, my wife and I, here in town. I grew up on the property, so I'm really looking forward to some feedback. It's our kind of solution to hopefully the problem for more affordable housing. Aging parents are on the property in the front house as well. 80 today for my mom and then 91 for the dad, so it seems to be like a good solution, hopefully.
Okay, welcome. Okay, so our project is on the east side, 19 North Voluntario. I've got some perspective renderings of.
Could you just start with where, context, like where this is, surrounding neighborhood, et cetera? That'd be helpful, I think, for everybody.
And then just for city TV purposes and staff as well, can you just scoot the mic a little closer as well? Appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, we're on Voluntario between Quarantina and Franklin School. Mason, between Quarantina and Mason, right, a block away from Franklin School. So the property is a R2 lot, so 8,021 square feet. We've, like said before, we're going to be proposing to keep the existing front house. At the moment, we aren't proposing to do any work to it. There's apartments to the north west and residential to on the other side, with some other apartment buildings behind. So it's a pretty dense area. This is the site plan, the existing site plan with the proposed demolition of the garage, with the driveway on the side. Let's see. How do we get to the photos? Probably should get.
The photos should be attached at the end of the presentation.
I think they're at the very end, if I remember right.
Let's look at the photos. So that may.
There we go.
That may be good. So here's a view, looking west over the Voluntario property. This is one of the apartment buildings to the right of our site. This is our site. This is the residential unit front building to the left of our site, and this is looking straight at our site with the apartments on the right. Again, neighbors. A little bit further down. This is looking down the street. This is a close-up of the front. Wanted to show the front because we're part of the proposal is to change the colors. Sorry about that. This is the back side. This is the garage with the utility room attached to it. This is the back of the existing residence to remain. This is the garage that's going to be removed. This is looking from the back of the property straight back. As you can see on the left, there's other apartment buildings. And this is looking at the back of the building, all the way from the back. And that's the last one. We've got a very nice mature oak tree at the front, which we're going to maintain. Okay. So part of what we're proposing is the two-story residence with the two-car garage in a similar style as the front house, but we're going to do a little bit, we're proposing to change the color scheme of the existing house and the back house, the new house. We're going to go with a off-white plaster exterior with dark gray or charcoal gray windows and doors and trim, and a charcoal gray roof. Here's the view of from the driveway looking at the carport, proposed carport, and the open space that's going to be between the two units, very accessible to both. Here's a view from the balcony looking at the existing residence and the carport, both from the balcony of the new unit and from the front of the unit looking back. So our plan is for 746 square foot first floor with the attached 450 square foot garage with stairs going up to the second floor where we have 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. This is the common bath to be shared by the 2 units. On the first floor, we do have a bedroom, that's probably going to end up being more like a den or, than a bedroom, but we do have a full bath downstairs as well. We're matching the roof slope of the existing house. I think it's a 4 and 12. And we're matching we're using an 18-inch overhang. We're matching the window grids and, of course, the new garage door and the new balcony. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible to make sure that the roof had plenty of area for solar, the solar requirement. This is the floor plan and elevations of the carport, just very simple, 4-post with the roof, hip roof to match the existing. And this is the existing front house, which is a 3-bedroom house. This is the elevations of the existing house. The only thing that we're not copying from the front house is that it has a wood siding watermark at the front. And when we paint it, repaint it, that'll be the trim color, which is the charcoal gray. And this is a combination of site photos with the existing front building, with the back building behind it, the back elevation, the south elevation of the 2 units, and the north elevation of the 2 units. Part of what we're proposing is for the windows to be wood-clad windows with probably the charcoal gray. Like I said, the roof would be a charcoal gray asphalt shingle architectural profile asphalt shingle roof. The doors would be wood or wood clad, depending on, the front door would be wood, and then the sliding doors would be wood clad to match the color to match the windows. We're thinking of using the exterior color as a La Habra eggshell, which is very light, not white, but very, very light white. The trim would be charcoal, and the gutters would match the plaster so that they disappear, because there's such a contrast between the colors. And the pavers, we're thinking of using a gray and charcoal pattern. So when we see the elevations, this is more of a tan, so that it would go a little bit better with the architecture. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Open public comment. We can open public comment.
All right, thank you, Chair Moore. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. And seeing no one in the audience, I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom, you can go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you. At this time, I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, well, let's go to questions from the board. Mr. Whalen, do you have any questions?
Sure. I'd like to start with the assistance of Mr. Black. The plans talk about removing a mature podocarpus in the back, a mature lovely tree. It didn't look like a podocarpus to me. Did you have an arborist report? Can you go to your photograph of the rear yard that shows that tree? I've seen very large podocarpus. I know they grow that big. It just didn't look like it.
I couldn't see it, but
It's your rear yard photos. We're getting close. Not yet. There it is on the upper.
Can you enlarge that image?
Just zoom in there.
Pittis Farm?
Pittis Farm.
This is a two-part question, so first part is tree identification. It's a lovely shaped tree, beautiful and mature. My second part question, while Mr. Black studies that, is did you investigate any solutions, any site designs that would preserve that tree?
I looked at them, and there weren't any viable solutions because of the location. If we go to the site plan, it's in a location where if we try to put the building here with the rear yard over back here, our open yard then just becomes the open yard for the new residents. And they really wanted to be able to have the yard in between them. And it's so close to the building that there's no way that we could keep it.
Yes. And continuing on with that line of questioning, how close is oh, no, I'm sorry, it's being removed. I thought that the plan could be rotated with the garage maintaining its same orientation. But moving on to questions, are they're really only neighbors to the right, if we're just looking at the site plan. Did you investigate views and distances and setbacks? It looks like the upper floor is really set back 12, 15 feet from the property line.
Yes. On this side, we've got I think it's like 13.6 setback, for solar and other purposes. And we try to limit the amount of windows on the other side.
But there are some windows on that apartment.
Right. So if you look at our side windows, we've got one small bedroom window with the sliding glass being the main source of light. And on the other side, again, we have one small window in the bedrooms just so we can get some cross light, better lighting, but nothing that's you would stand and enjoy the view from there.
Thank you for your assurances. It didn't look like it. From one of your site photos, there was parking in front of the existing house, and in one of your renderings, that parking goes away. So
Yes.
We will see a master landscape plan where all of that is put in front of us.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Let's see. Now, you talk about matching the front house, and indeed, the roof pitch and character does, but do the windows on the existing house are not wood clad, they are steel frame or from
Yes.
another era. And then you're not proposing to repaint the front house?
Yes.
You are?
Yes, we are. If you look at the
All right.
rendering, sorry. It's the colors are to match both buildings are going to be matching colors with the same color scheme.
Those are all my questions. Thank you, Chair Moore.
And because they're steel windows, they should be fairly easy to repaint. Should be. Right.
Mr. Noon?
Just briefly, to expand a little bit on that window question, it looks like in the new structure, you've got a combination of double hung and casement? Or were those double hung and fixed?
Those were double hung and casement. We used the double hungs only where we wanted such a narrow window that, and you know, that's the double hungs are just more functional in those locations.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the side windows facing the neighbors.
Mm-hmm. And then on the existing, what was the type?
They're metal windows. Most of them are casements. Let's see. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
my
so
question.
we've got those window swings on the existing house.
Yeah. That was my question. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Black? Question?
So, yeah, were you intending to come back with a plan showing landscape improvements?
Yes.
Okay, you will. And then, do we have a visual on the permeable paving that you're proposing for that driveway? Because it's significant.
I haven't submitted it. I did bring a sample.
I'm just curious. And then while you're doing that too, is it your intention, is there going to be new fencing along the property lines? I mean, I see in your rendering that,
Yes. There is some existing, but like the back fence and most of the side fencing will be new.
okay. And then I noticed too that, thank you for this.
It's
So there's really no planting strip along the driveway adjacent to the fence,
yes.
is there? I just couldn't see it, but,
Yeah, there's going to be a 12-inch, and it's dimension here for vines,
got it.
and then it does widen out towards the end.
Okay.
And if you have any recommendations on trees, that would be helpful.
Well, your job is to present something, and
Yeah.
then I'll tell you, yeah, that works, or no.
Okay.
But, I mean, it might be, I mean, I don't know what your intention is for that sort of landscape space there, but I mean, it might be an opportunity for a tree since you're having to take out that giant specimen. So, anyway, you can consider that.
Okay.
And those are my questions. Thanks.
Okay. Vice Chair Six?
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore. Are the new, the existing windows being metal will naturally have a recess from the surface of the exterior wall. What, do you have a detail at this point on your efforts to, or on what the window, will the new windows be recessed?
The new windows, I haven't detailed, but, you know, if you feel that recess them would be a benefit, we can definitely show that on the details when we come back.
I think that's my only question.
Okay. Just have a couple other questions? If we go back to the elevations of the proposed, is there, it seems like there's a lot of stucco. Is there an opportunity to introduce some of that water line material on the garage at least, or something to kind of break that down?
One concept that we've been thinking of, if this, especially this face, looks too very tall and high story, is bring in this face out so that we can get a brow going all the way across, which would also make that living room just a little bit bigger. And because this is facing northeast with morning sun, or I believe, it wouldn't be, it'd be nice to have some shade, but the amount of covered porch that we have isn't really necessary.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we could do we could definitely do a watermark to go with the front house, probably lower, but because the front house is raised wood floor, and this one's going to be slab on grade.
Right. Okay. And that your discussion about the porch covering kind of ties into my next question.
Sure.
So you kind of set up this roof that sort of covers the entry, but then sort of visually continues across the top of the garage, but then it's interrupted by the balcony. Did you study any other, like, in particularly the area that's covering the front door, did you study a different geometry for that roof or a way to separate it? So it's not, sort of is not a part of the garage roof anymore and more visually separate?
If we do the brow going across, we can definitely separate it. This is a solid rail here, so it ends there. And if we do the roof, it's going to go like a third of the way up, so it's not going to look like it's a break between this one and this one. And there will also be a depth difference. They will no longer be almost in the same plane.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I wrote down, is there going to be a new tree? Because it seems like in that nice common open space that it would be great to have a new sizable tree planted.
I think that we need a tree, yes.
Okay, good.
The one other comment that I will make is that I'm probably gonna I like to suggest putting a brow over the back door there, to add a little bit more to that, break up that big expanse of plaster as well.
Okay, that's a good idea too. Any other questions before we go to comments? No? Who'd like to start? Mr. Whalen?
Sure, I will. Thank you, Chair Moore. First of all, I think it's perfectly in character with the neighborhood as far as size, bulk, and scale. I think it's admirable how much personal pride and place that you have in it, and what you're trying to invest in it is very clear. And this is probably the first and only time we will have dual Jose Luis at our table. So just wanted to make note of that. I would like to point out the long expanse of driveway, as Mr. Black alluded to. That distance shot down there, you should look at mitigating that distance, and this could be done by varying the fence in its configuration, the landscape materials, and even the paving pattern can, rather than just being repetitive, could break it up into different areas and spaces. The carport columns look a little spindly. I'm sure they're probably just engineered just fine, but either beef them up or add brackets or something to make it visually more solid and permanent looking. Let's see, other than that, I wouldn't mind pink being reiterated on the new building and matching it. I grew up in a pink house and I happen to like that pink, and I'm sorry to see all that generation go, but color is a very fashionable thing, and sort of white, we're in the white and gray and black era now. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Black.
Okay.
As opposed
Or
to you.
Mr. Noon?
Well,
Any-
Mr.
any
Newsom, go
comments?
ahead.
Go ahead, sir. I'll be quick, or be brief. I would make a comment about the windows, more consistency, but would defer to the rest of the board if they didn't feel that was necessary. I do agree with Chair Moore's comments on the front, that front elevation. The roofs look a little connected yet disconnected. You know, the eaves are different height. You know, either they're the same or they're not at all the same. So I just think that geometry of that over that entry needs further development. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Black?
Yeah, I'd agree with, that was the first thing that struck me about that elevation, is that the roof lines just seem a little awkward. So, obviously, I'm not the only one. So, and then we talked about the landscape, too. I mean, it is a long driveway. Maybe you could, well, I don't think you want to have a planted strip down the middle, you know, sort of old school style, but, you know, maybe you could just change out the materials, you know, so it's, maybe you've got a strip of another material, whichever, just to kind of break it up a little bit. But, and then obviously the landscape along the fence line and then in the back with the extra tree, I think would really be a positive. But otherwise, I think it's nice.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Vice Chair Six?
Yes, I think the project is very reasonable and shows the appreciation of the site as far as not overbuilding. So I think that's a nice project by that means. Just a couple minor things. I think, and Mr. Wayland alluded to it, I think the issue with the standalone carport is that it's 8 foot high to the eave, to the beams, and that could be brought down a whole foot, I think, you know, unless you have a special vehicle. And typically, you know, you can get by with 7, so I think it would look a lot better.
I think the thought behind that was for, you know, a larger vehicle with stuff on the roof rack, but I'll discuss it with the owner.
Okay. And then the other, I think board members have already alluded to, there's an awkwardness in the placement of the balcony and the half of the, you know, the 3 elements, the balcony not reaching all the way, or a consistent expression across the opening of the garage. You know, something needs to be different there, whether the balcony is flatter and the first and the eave of the garage goes in front of the balcony, or the balcony is the complete width of the garage, or the balcony is over the entry, and then you see a continuous eave at the garage. There's just something needs to be synthesized in those 3 elements: the half of the garage roof, the balcony, and the entry roof need to have some kind of a different arrangement that respects the plan. Those are my comments. Otherwise, I think it's a good project.
Okay, I don't have anything to add. I agree with Vice Chair Six on that. Would you care to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I would give this,
Do we need landscape before
No,
PDA?
so PDA can be approved without a landscape plan.
would that be acceptable to PDA without landscape? How about final consent?
That's fine.
You know,
I mean, fine.
final approval? Final approval, I consent.
Well, we're asking them to make some changes to the elevation.
Okay, let's come back here and perhaps maybe they will be ready for final when it comes back to full board. So I make a indefinite continuance with the following comments: that the project's mass, bulk, and scale are acceptable and compatible with the neighborhood. There is, the project is not overdeveloped and has good site usages. In regards to the site, there should be some attempt to break up the long visual driveway with either changing patterns or maybe even, I don't know if you have, can we go back to the site plan? Okay, no. Yeah, so some further means to shorten the visual length of the driveway. That the applicant shall study different ways to better synthesize the entry porch, the balcony, and the remaining roofed portion of the garage in order to make more sense with the plan. The board would like to see recessed windows, given that this is a brand-new project. What was that other one that we're talking about? Oh, shall study ways to make the standalone carport less leggy, L-E-G-G-Y. Oh, and as suggested by the applicant, to provide some kind of eyebrow over the doorway in the, I guess it was the south elevation? West elevation.
East.
Oh, sorry, west.
West.
Yeah, yeah.
Did I miss anything?
So staff has a couple comments, and that would be project designer approval, given with the following comments. I think it was.
Yes, did I miss that?
Potentially. I'm not sure.
Project design approval.
And then I would make a recommendation to maybe continue this to consent if the board would be okay with that. We are seeing a large amount of projects. It would be helpful for the applicant and the board members themselves. So I don't know if that's something we totally have the ability to take it to consent, and if it is something the consent reviewers are not comfortable reviewing, they can send it back to full board as well. So there is that opportunity, but I just
My own two bets is that it's not a significant impact to the neighborhood or the character of the neighborhood or any issues with the adjacent neighbors. So I would support it going to consent.
Okay.
Regarding going to consent, it would seem to me that we would need the benefit of a landscape eye on the consent committee at that time, and since those memberships change, I'm a little uneasy. I would rather have the benefit of Mr. Black reviewing it. So if that can't happen on consent, I would rather it come back to the board.
And maybe I'm speaking for you, Board Member Black, but I do know that you attend consent review items when there are when there is a landscape component. But we could also potentially make that a part of the motion as well.
Thank you, that's acceptable.
Yes, the motion would read that it could be, come back to consent for final approval with the requirement that Board Member Black be there to review the landscape.
Okay. Do we have a seconder of that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Was there an inclusion of a tree in the?
Oh, yes, so if we could add to the motion that the loss of the mature backyard tree should be mitigated with appropriate landscape, or,
Well, yeah, I mean, thinking about it, it'd be nice to have a 36-inch box tree, since you're
a 36-inch box
minimum
tree
size.
planted to coordinate with the site use.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
I don't know that we read all the way through the findings if we're doing PDA.
We have to do that. Yeah, we do have to do the
Okay.
PDA findings.
So the motion also includes that the project is compatible due to the following, that it is consistent with the design guidelines of the location of the project, with the location of the project. It's compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood. It is of appropriate size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. There is no adjacent landmarks or historic resources to be concerned about. There's no public or ocean views affected, and there is appropriate open space and landscaping for the use of the project.
Okay. Let's take our vote.
Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes?
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
you.
Appreciate it, everybody.
Okay, and it looks like we're
Right on time.
a little ahead, but
We have the ability to hear the next item.
why don't we take a 4-minute break?
Sure. So the board will reconvene at 4:52. Okay. Architectural Board review.
So, item number 4, our last item of the evening, is 730 East Dakota Street. This is a proposal for two 3-story apartment buildings, 5 units total. Proposal includes 5 parking spaces. The project will demolish all existing structures. The project is designed to comply with the city's average unit size density incentive program. The units range in size from 814 square feet to 973 square feet. No appealable decision will be made at this hearing. The project was last reviewed on February 21st. Do we have those?
One moment, Vice Chair Six.
So last time the project was here, the project was considered elegant and well-designed, but is not appropriate given the precise guidelines for new construction adjacent to historic resources. The applicant shall seek a design and development that respects to a great degree what is implied in those guidelines. So with that, we will hand it over to, do we need to have a spiel about the solo practitioner and his ability to present? I thought that was a mandatory exercise we needed to go through.
I will have to get back to you on that.
Well, okay, so.
I do know, I think I know what you're referring to.
Yes.
But I don't think I was.
Whether formally or informally, there are guidelines and rules which allow
Yes.
a solo designer, practitioner to present his own project. I'll just leave it with that.
Yeah, and let me find that language so I can formally address
Okay, thank you.
that as well. Thank you for the reminder.
Just
All
for
right.
clarity, it was mentioned last time. I don't know if it needs to be mentioned at every
It
meeting.
was,
but
and I don't think it'd be harmful to mention it again, but
Okay.
it was mentioned at the first hearing. But
Okay.
we'll see what I can bring up. Thank you.
Very good. If you would give your name and
Certainly.
presentation.
Certainly. Kevin Moore, architect for the owner. Last time, as the motion correctly captured, there was some hesitancy regarding the adjacency of the historic resource next to this proposal. And so what we've done is, in concert with the urban historian, Ms. Hernandez, we've come back with a revised proposal that hopefully you find acceptable. I'm just going to jump to the aerial image to just remind ourselves of the context briefly. So across the street from Santa Barbara High, and then this is the little house next door that is considered the historic resource. And then large buildings scattered amongst all of this, more commercial related uses and mixed use projects as well. There's several apartments on third stories, second stories, et cetera, scattered throughout this area. One thing that the urban historian brought up was the relationship of the street frontage compared to what we see on the block currently. So what we did is we did a little field trip down the street and measured the approximate setback from the back of the sidewalk. And you can see that over here, it's about 10 feet. Then our subject property here varies from 7 feet to 15 as it exists now. Come on. Struggling to move.
Maybe you have to.
There we go. Then as we come down to the adjacent historic structure. It's closest at 12 and a half feet, and then back where the front porch is, it's about 20 feet. And then as we move down the street, 11 and a half feet, 15 feet, 11 and a half feet, 12 and a half feet, 11 and a half feet, 15 feet, and then, it comes down 8 feet, 10 feet, 8 feet. So the reality is these houses are very close to the sidewalk. And and then these are images of those adjacent houses. This is the next door neighbor, the historic resource. You can see the proximity to the street, big hedge in the front yard. And then further down the street, very close to the sidewalk. And then there's generally some sort of wall or fence right at the back of the sidewalk on all of these houses, be it brick, hedge, railing, it varies. So what we've done in our proposed site plan, this is the parcel that we're working with here. We have Nopal Street here at the bottom and Coda Street here on the right-hand side. The historic resource next door. What we did, previously we had more of a courtyard setup where you entered the project on access, on the center line access into a nice courtyard, and then you entered the front units on each side. What we did is we took that required 15-foot by 15-foot common open space. We shifted it to the property line, shared with the historic resource next door, and shifted the entries to these two Coda Street facing units to work with that arrangement. So this unit comes directly off the street with a little porch, and you come in. This other unit, you would actually come through the common open space out the back because you're not allowed to enter your unit directly from the 15 by 15 foot common open space. You have to come through it and then into a vestibule. The three units in the back remain as is. They share a little entry walkway down here. The driveway is proposed to be a permeable paver. All of these dimensions are extremely tight to provide car maneuvering. So this wall is here because this car has to back straight out and then sweep around here, and it just barely clears that. The intent, though, is to provide vine pockets and some slim low planting where we can. So I did want to just hand these to, this is an email from Nicole Hernandez after she'd reviewed the proposal and gave some recommendations on what her feelings were. And if you read through that, you can see that she feels the changes to the site plan are greatly improve the project and the relationship to the historic resource. So as we move up to the second floor in plan, the basic partie remains the same, where we wanted to dissolve the corners of the building, have these balconies at each edge, at each corner to help reduce the mass and also provide an interesting experience from the interior side. You'll see that the biggest change in the plan is here. The building is pulled back from this edge and this property line. And then as we go up to the third level, you see that pulls back even more. You see that roof form below. And then the private outdoor open space for the units all happen up here on the third floor. What we've done to address some of the concerns of the neighbor, they had some concerns about privacy, views down into their backyard. What we've done is we squeezed a foot out of this unit. What that allowed us to do, a foot in width, that allowed us to bring this roof detail and wrap it around. And then we pulled this wall back, which allows us to get more roof and also raise the height of this to 4 feet. So that really your views down into that yard would be pretty restricted, even if you'd have to really work at it to look down into that yard. And there was also concern on the level below. What we've done on this balcony is we've raised this wall and kind of curved it up so that you wouldn't be able, from standing here, you wouldn't be able to look out and into that backyard. You'd be looking at plaster wall here. So, you can skip up here. So one suggestion that the urban historian made was to provide a little bit more of a streetscape drawing so we can get a little bit more of the context. This is standing, I guess, across the street in front of the junior high, looking back at the project. You have the pretty tall three-story building over here. Across Nopal Street is the proposal. You can zoom in a little. And we've ghosted in the existing very large street trees that are in front of the parcel. They actually kind of continue down the street here, but so all of these changes result in the massing being a little bit more compact up front, gives a little bit more of a buffer to the historic resource next door, provides some more street character with the doors facing the street on this unit, and really stair steps away from the corners, de-emphasizing the overall massing. And we brought along some other imagery. So this is what we looked at last time, the Coda Street elevation, where we had the nice courtyard set up with the common open space back here, and the board felt that this was a little too crowded for the neighbor. And this is where we are today. Again, the materiality was also suggested by Nicole Hernandez. She suggested to try wood railings along the street. So we've included that along with some wood corbels there at the little entry covering. We still have a similar tile detail. As we can go around to the other elevations. So we've made some updates to the other elevations as well in response to the massing changes. So this is the Nopal Street elevation. In order to accommodate that open yard on the opposite property line, we had to slide this building towards Nopal Street, and we had a little low site wall undulating along here, so we lost that, unfortunately. But we were able to keep it back here, and that continues here with a little gate to access the back units back here. This is the rear elevation. You can see as we zoom in. Here you can see how the third story sets back, and we get a little bit more of that roofing here, and then the height of this wall here would preclude sight lines down into that backyard. And then the same down here, we have this wall that kind of rises up here that's meant to do the same job. And then this is the elevation that is, the west elevation facing the historic resource. We've ghosted in that house next door. So you can see it's a pretty tall structure on its own. And then just in the back here is this pretty much two-story commercial structure that's right on the property line, back line here. So you can see how we've attempted to really break down the massing up front here and shift everything back. We've kept the site wall here low along their driveway, and then it picks up here to give a little bit more privacy. And if there's headlights, for instance, coming in to our proposed project, that would be blocked by that wall. And then over here on this corner, you see the third floor here. This is that deck wall, a little privacy wall there with the extra roof that comes across here. And this, I think, also would help to break down the vertical nature of this back building here. You would, if you're standing on the ground here, you'd be looking up, you'd be seeing the tile roof edge and eave detail. And that carries down a nice sweep plaster wall here for more privacy on the back. These trees are existing on the neighbor's property, and they're roughly that size. So there is some in-place landscape buffer there. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. So with that, we will open public comment.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair Six. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and I don't see anyone in the audience wishing to speak, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll call on you. At this time, I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair Six.
That being the case, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Who would like to start?
I will, Vice Chair Six. I only have one question, Mr. Moore. Could you go to your north elevation? Just to clarify.
Well, it's
when you just
Yes, and zoom in there.
Sure.
You have a setback of 28 feet. And then are we looking at the rear unit beyond?
No, this little bump out here is the stair.
That's part of the front unit.
For this front unit,
right?
yeah.
And can you give us an idea, does that directly interface with the house across the street? And if so, what's the setback? I guess you'd have to go to a site plan.
From here to there?
Both, yeah.
I think you understand my question. I missed.
So you were seeing
Yes.
this edge right here, so.
So there was
That is-
28 feet to the wall, yes, and, good zoom. And then, so we're looking at sort of the length of the stair run there, minus the length of the stair run. Just interested in what the setback would be.
Okay, so I'd say this, from the edge of the stair here to the property line is, I believe it's about 6 feet.
6?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're 6, and then I think in one of our site plans, we have a dimension on that. There it is. So from the building, adjacent building to there is 12 foot, 7.5.
7 plus.
So we're about 18.
6. Thank you. That's my only question.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Newton?
Just briefly, go to your site plan. I just wanted to confirm, I understand the shift and the open space. Did the building itself move off the front property line along Coda? Or is it still, was it previously 8 feet and we're still 8 feet?
That is a good question. I think we moved it, it was 7 feet, I believe, so I believe it shifted a foot back.
Okay. That's it for now.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Mr. Black?
So when I looked at that north elevation, so there's around the little courtyard that you're proposing, yeah, there. So I see a little masonry wall. I'm assuming maybe there'll be a gate there. And then what's the treatment for the little, the other front door there? It looks like a little fence or rail on either side there. What is that?
So you'd be stepping up onto a little porch with a little railing around it. Are we talking
So
about
it'd be
this?
okay, so that's at the doorway as opposed to, it's not out at the back of sidewalk then necessarily.
No, that's happening right here.
Got it.
So it's 4 feet back from the sidewalk.
Uh-huh. Okay, and then maybe this question's been asked. How high is the wall between your project and the adjacent historic structure again?
So it's 3'6" for this section right here.
Okay, around the courtyard.
Yeah, and that's one for sight lines, because this is their driveway
Got it.
as they back out. And then it rises up here, and I think we're at, oh gosh. Not sure if we say what height that is, but I'd say 6 feet.
Okay. And then my other question is, the little sort of cut-down railing in the upper story there that you got, was your intention to have that be wood as well?
Yes, yes. So all the railings
All the railings
would be wood, except for the Juliet balconies. I think we'd have those be more of an iron look.
Can you show me where those are again?
Those are on the
Okay, there,
the
yes.
Noble side, yeah.
And those would just be sort of essentially a plaster base landing or?
I don't know. I mean, they're not particularly deep, so my hope is that they would have a steel look to them, so a wrought iron look to them.
Far as okay, so,
Yeah.
because I think I looked at the rendering, it looked like there was plaster coming up
Oh,
and sort
yeah.
of stand on, but that's not accurate.
That's not the intent. That plaster detail would happen in these locations,
I see.
but this would be more of like a traditional
Traditional,
Juliet.
Yeah, with ornamental iron and what
Yeah.
have you. Okay, like that. Okay. Those are my only questions.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Only question I have, so you've pushed the front unit closer to the side yard, yeah, right there. So, and then you have a Juliet balcony protruding from that. So you've obviously you're confident that you're hitting the right setback rules and so forth?
Yes, I mean, this Juliet is really it's on, but it's not particularly deep.
Okay.
It's not meant to be stepped out onto.
Yeah. So, and the front courtyard would have or would not have a gate at the street side?
This would have a gate.
Would have a gate?
Yes.
Okay. And then just out of curiosity, if we could go to the west elevation. Yeah, and the rear unit, if you can zoom in there. Why interrupt that beautiful shed roof off of the stairs with the parapet halfway, 3/4 of the way up? Is it a logistics right there?
This right here?
Yeah. Is there
Well,
logistics or something that?
We are going to have some roof equipment up
Ah.
there. So the intent is to have some parapeted sections so that we can hide all that. I can show you the roof plan. So we're trying to be conscious of all of these things. So
Oh, yeah, there's
little
okay.
mechanical wells here and there.
Uh-huh. Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
So, with that being,
Can I ask another question?
yes, Mr. Black.
So I'm sort of looking back at that, Dakota Street elevation where you've got the walls. Well, maybe if you look at the plan for that again. Yeah, that one. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what would he be like? And this is just, maybe this goes into comments, but if you had a like a low masonry wall at the back of the sidewalk, or maybe it's set back 18 inches or something, because I'm thinking, if I was living in that living space that close to the sidewalk, I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable knowing that people could just walk through the landscape right up to my window. I don't know, that's just me, but as opposed to if you had a low masonry wall, let's say it's 36, 42 or so, and then brought it all the way across, and then you could have a gate for that entrance plus another gate at the other end. I don't know, it's just a thought, but
Okay.
it's just you're going to get a fair amount of traffic, pedestrian traffic up and down here, and I just think it'd be more comfortable. But I guess that's as much a question or a comment as it is a question. But
It's certainly something we could look at.
Just
I
to
mean,
look at, yeah.
Obviously, we haven't gotten too much into the landscape as well, so there's some, I think there's some
understand.
options there
Yeah.
to preclude people from walking up to your window.
Mr. Black, you want to start with comments? You already have.
Yes, I have. Thank you. Yeah, again, I think it's a nice. It's very nicely done, and I like the notion that you're going toward wooden rails. I think it just sort of softens it and makes it a little bit more authentic. And I'm glad to hear that those balconies are going to be Juliet, all steel as opposed to sort of plastered. So. Yeah, I think it's quite nice, and I particularly like this little courtyard element. It makes it sets it up nicely, and especially adjacent to the heritage structure next door. I think that's very pleasant. So those are my only comments.
Mr. Black? Excuse me,
I
Mr. Noon.
Yeah, I agree with that last comment. I think the courtyard is very successful, the way you've responded to that. I think everything that you've done, to address the privacy, the, giving up here and there to accommodate the comments. So I think it is well done, I guess, is the overall tone I want to add to this. Unfortunately, there's one thing that I'd still would comment on would just be that front elevation. Within 8 feet of the property line, the 2-story volume. I guess I'd be interested to see what the other board members say about it. But I know you've really pushed and pulled and squeezed and to accommodate. So I think it's. I want to maintain that well done attitude. I just wanted to bring that up about that 2-story volume.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wayland.
Well, I've been secretly cheering this project along, the little project that could, and it's such an improvement for that neighborhood over the existing. So I really have to applaud you for coming up with an inventive solution that satisfies the board comments and our historian. So kudos to you. I'm especially fond of that east elevation and glad to see that. This is sort of the prelude to the kiss of 2 buildings. I think it's very romantic. And on that point, overall, when this style got started in the 20s, these were very modest little small buildings, and they sort of grew larger. And now, by default or other pressures, they're getting back to being a small scale. And I think this elevation especially reflects that and will be a welcome addition. Just a minor point, if you go around the corner to the Coda Street, I haven't quite put my finger on it, but something doesn't look finished about this. Something doesn't look like it belongs with the assembly of front facades along Cota. I don't know what it would be, Mr. Moore. I'll leave that up to you if you understand my very vague comment at all. I think if you go to the plan view of the little entry courtyard, a delightful little space that isn't experienced by that unit, perhaps a small little deep set window in the vestibule or a small window in the living room, so that you could enjoy that space if indeed it has a water feature or colorful plantings, or really attempt to draw that space, share that space visually, because there are some awkward, idiosyncratic rooms in the plans. This one example, and I think massaging or fine tuning the arrangement of windows could solve two problems. And then if you could go to your west elevation, the rear building's large expanse of blank windows, I think, could be mitigated by some frames, which you've indicated on the third floor. I think that could be repeated, say, on the second floor as a gesture to the neighbor. I think that's all I have. So bravo for solving a very difficult problem.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel so much more comfortable with this project, and I think it really responds to the concerns of the last time of the historic. If we go to the that elevation on the street elevation, I think the trick here is you've been able to design something that has is close to the grade, and therefore all of this rest of the elevation is lower than the neighboring house, which has, you know, the large clear store space underneath. You going up at least 2.5 feet or whatever. So I think it really tricks the eye and helps mitigate and exactly what the historic guidelines say, is to bring the massing down closer you get to the historic building. So I'm very happy with this and very successful. I really have no other comments than that it's a nice project. We don't make a motion here, so you have our comments, and we look forward to seeing this in the next step.
We can make a motion. We've had motions done. We're kind of inconsistent, actually, when it comes to if you would like a motion.
I'll make a motion for indefinite continuance with positive comments in regards to the project and the respect to the neighboring historic structure, and look forward to seeing the next iteration before the board. No seconder?
Second.
Mr. Wayland?
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to make a comment, just logistics. I don't know that we mentioned the appealable 10-day appeal process for two of the projects that required it.
Can we swap actually to? So for items that received project design approval today, which I believe were two, both 2940 De La Vina Street and 19 North Voluntario Street, that is an appealable decision. So for those who are in attendance, the instructions on screen will direct you on how to make an appeal. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting. So
All right, thank you.